Joining me today, I have Elenee. She is a Canadian Christian artist. She's got a couple songs on the radio now, and she's all the way from Saskatchewan. Elenee, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, our pleasure. I would love for you to start off. Tell me a little bit more about this new single that we've been playing, I Don't Want It. What was the heart behind it?
Oh, the heart behind the song, Sylvia, is really simple. It's just, in a world that is so consumer driven and materialistic and just so far from the heart of God, which is just, abandoning everything and just following Him. I just wanted to write a song that took that concept of um, leaving it all behind and just going for Jesus. I wanted to take something that felt kind of modern. And in today's day and age, it looks like money and fame and, friends and people. It's just, it felt like such a today's song for a message that is so eternal. And it's just also kind of fun and sassy. So it does take the modern side of the concept and then it kind of gives it a little attitude. So I don't want it as fun. It's fun to sing and it's also really fun to kind of share about because I feel like a lot of people will maybe associate it with maybe the music industry, record deals, and I don't want this, I don't want your fame and all the things, but really it applies to all of us.
That's beautiful. What I would love to expand a little bit because it's biblical, it's important. Jesus says, "Deny yourself, take up your
Mm.
cross and follow me." That sounds very much like the theme of this song. What is one, two, maybe ways that you practice this in your own life that we can take?
Oh, that is such a great question. And I feel like we would need an hour and some organ music and a couple hankies. But but I think one of the biggest things that the Lord has been walking me through, and this is just an Elenee thing. Um, and it sounds silly, okay, but hear me out this morning, um, or whenever you're listening to this. For me, it's been dressing differently. And I know it's like, okay, that was not what I was expecting. But since I didn't grow up serving God in a really um, large capacity, when I came to know the Lord a little later in life, I had to adjust a lot of my lifestyle and not out of a need to please someone or something or to fit into an institution or a box, but it was because I was feeling convicted about certain things. So, um, I, in terms of denying myself, my speech felt like it was kind of icky all of a sudden. I was like, okay, I need to serve God better with my mouth and how I speak. But the other thing that seems so abstract was for me was how I was dressing. And it was just like, am I dressing today to honor the Lord or am I, dressing in a way that just shows way too much and it's just like bringing attention to myself. And I know that's like probably not a real radio show thing, but that was like one of the first things that came to my brain. So I thought, the most like deny yourself thing I've done in my walk with the Lord has really just been like adjusting how I present myself to the world in a way that glorifies the Lord. So that's one thing. Another thing I would say is just like setting boundaries, which sounds crazy too, because it's like, how are boundaries lining up with, Christianity and serving God? But being able to say, no, that's not for me. No, this doesn't serve our family in this season. I think our very first and foremost ministry, if you are, raising a family, is your family. So finding things that aren't working because it's cutting into that most important thing in your life and setting boundaries and saying, you know what, this isn't serving the Lord in my time. So I'm going to have to say no to that and I'm going to have to dedicate that time back to my family. And I just don't think that we did that for very many generations. So um setting up the cycle, I guess if you will, from scratch is really important.
Thank you so much for sharing your heart. I could talk for like at least an hour about boundaries. I think that's phenomenal. And I will quickly address when you're talking about um, what you wear. What came to mind immediately, first of all, beautiful and humility. I can just see pouring out of you. Um,
Oh.
when the Lord convicts us of something and we
Mhm.
give it up, it ends up blessing us.
Yes.
This, it's not this, oh, like you said, I have to do this to get love. No, I am loved
Mhm.
and I get to do this. That's so
Yeah,
beautiful. Thank you for
totally.
sharing your heart on that. Um, so we also play another song. I hope you don't mind me asking a little bit about it. What was it like collaborating with Keegan on this new song, Provider? If I'm saying
Oh,
that right, I
yeah.
know there's no vowels, but
Yeah, you are. Great job. It's such a Gen Z thing, I think, or
yeah.
maybe it's a millennial thing and I'm just late to the party. But when we were writing it, the original, like, working title was Provider, like, spell how it is, and I was like, "Let's just ditch the vowels." Kagan was like, "Okay, I guess," like, backspace. Um, the song is so fun. So he came to me with the idea of collaborating. I had been following him for a while. I was a huge fan of just his overall writing style and producing style. Like he's such a um, kind of, I don't even know, out of the box maybe producer. So he's like, "Hey, I'd love to work together." I was like, "Say less." Um, and the song came at such a strange time in my life. I was having some health episodes that were, like, super scary, and, um, this particular day was in December, this past December. I was in the hospital actually, like, doing a whole bunch of tests to rule out certain things. We're talking, like, brain tumors and stroke, so it was, like it was a very serious thing. And so in the middle of all these tests, I was sort of waiting for results and just sitting on this bed in this isolated room. And I pulled up my phone just to kill another hour, you know, and I came across the email from Kagan that was like either he had sent it that day or it was like a couple days ago. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I'll open this now. Um, and it was this concept for provider. And so it was the intro, the first verse, and the chorus, and I heard it and it immediately took the stress and just the anxiety like right off of my shoulders. Like it almost felt literal. Like I just felt this weight leave. And I was just like, man, this song is so good. Like, what does he need me for? You know, like it's done. Like let's just repeat verse one and like send it out, you know? And so I was just like, "I love this song. Please, I let me know how we can collaborate in terms of like I'll write on it, but it feels done. I'll sing on it, whatever. Also, I'll just champion you." You know? And he's like, "I want you to write a verse too, and like let's finish it up, and then I want you to sing on it." So yeah, it didn't take long after that. Like I came up with a verse too. I think like if not that day, it was like the next day, and just finished her up and put it out. And it's so strange because as an artist, and maybe you have a little bit of understanding of this too, just like before the public hears the song, you've already heard the song like a lot. So like, I mean, it was months of this song being like pretty much finished to the time that we put it out. And I was like listening to mixing reps and, you know, Juno samples or whatever and all this stuff. And so I had heard it so many times, but for the first time ever, the song did not get old to me. Like I'm saying, I would play it and I would just feel this peace and almost like this healing come over me because it just brought such a level of gratitude to the Lord and thankfulness. And I just don't feel like we sing enough songs like that. And so it was beautiful. So I was super excited to get to put it out with him and to be a collaborator on it. Oh, it's such a good song. Like I'm listening to it in my head right now. I'm like, oh yeah, I could hear it again. So yeah, Provider's amazing. I hope that it's encouraged the listeners as much as it's encouraged me in this season and just brought that level of gratitude to the Lord that we, like I said, we just don't have enough of these days.
That is simply phenomenal, and I love the timing that God does. If
Mhm.
you don't mind, I gotta ask, but you can shut this down.
All good.
Um, when you were in the hospital, that sounds very scary. Is everything okay? Did you get the all clear?
Yeah, all clear. It's so weird. Everything came back normal. Like thank God. It also doesn't explain the episodes. Like I have still, I think the last one I got was in May, which is good. They're kind of spread out. So we're just trying to figure out like okay, the doctor says it's stress. So I'm like, if it's stress, like what's stressing me out? Like what's stressing me out of the usual, because my life is a little stressful in general. I'm a restaurant owner and, a mom of two girls and doing music and doing church and just like everything is there and, busy. Um, but yeah, I don't know. So I feel confident in the fact that even though we don't have the answers, there haven't been a lot of episodes that have happened. So I'm good with that. And just kind of keeping an eye on everything and staying up to date on all the things, which is good. My last test I just had done was an MRI and it came back clear. And that was the thing I was kind of nervous about just because you see a lot more. Um, and yeah, just a couple weeks ago or maybe last week, I got the final results from that. And thank God it's all clear. Everything's good. So yeah, just kind of monitoring my stress levels for now, drinking my
Definitely.
chamomile tea and just keeping my feet up.
Right on. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. Praise God. Also,
Mhm.
we're going to ask our listeners to pray for you so that we can, you can figure this out and move on in
Oh,
peace. So,
thank you so
yeah,
much.
absolutely. I had no idea you were a restaurant owner. That's fantastic. I would love to know. I hope you don't mind. I went on your Instagram. I did a little searching, and I saw you recently celebrated 10 years, I believe, with your husband. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Also, finding out you had two girls. What does your family, your husband and
Mhm.
your daughters, think about this music that you're putting out there?
Well, again, Sylvia, it's like they see and hear all the things before everyone else. So by the time like any of my music comes out, my kids are fully tired of it. They're not interested. In fact, the honesty, I mean, they're 6 and 7. The honesty that they have, like even if the song hasn't been played a bunch of times in front of them, they're like, "Mom, this song's boring." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, cool."
Kids, right? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
kids, am I right? So, they're they're so incredibly supportive. Like I think I underestimate how supportive they are because just this last school year, end of the year, I would just show up to pick my kids up from school and this girl in my oldest class, she was in grade 2. She'll say or she this particular girl said, "I love your music." And her eyes were like this big. I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then like, another kid comes by and he'd be like, "I love your songs." And I'm just like,
Oh,
"Hmm." So I go to Mila and I'm like, "Hey girl, what just wondering like a couple of your friends just talked about my music. Did you show them some of my music?" She's like, "Yeah, I got my teacher to play it for us at the end of the day and all my friends were dancing." And of course, I'm just like kind of mortified because I'm like, "Oh my god." But so once my youngest caught wind that my oldest was doing that, then she also petitioned her teacher to play my music. And again, like at kindergarten pickup line, it's like, "I love your music." And I'm just like, "What in the world?" Like, so I think they're like secretly supportive and maybe they don't really understand or they're just starting to understand like the magnitude of what I do. Like I don't know. My husband is ridiculously supportive of the dream. It's like pathetic sometimes. Like the other day, it was just like another one of those days where I'm like, "Ah, I just want to quit. Everything's really hard and overwhelming." And he's just like, "You can quit if you want, but don't."
I love that. Simple,
Yeah.
to the point. Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Always reminding
And
me of just like my greater purpose, which I think is so underestimated in marriages, because it's easy to just get in the grooves of life and kind of stay there. But he's just like, make music not for you, but for everyone, for the kingdom. It's a ministry. Like your music has this level of encouragement that people aren't getting from anywhere else. So like don't stop doing that. And I'm just like, "Oh, okay, thank you. But also like this is really hard, but thank you."
totally. I think it allows a person to continue on those hard days, like you said. That's phenomenal.
Totally. Yeah.
You have some exciting news coming this fall. Tell us a little bit about what Elenee music looks like in the next couple months.
Well, you're hearing it first. My album was supposed to release on August 30th, and it's not anymore because things that are out of my control are taking a lot longer. So we're hoping for like mid-September, maybe late September. But it's coming, it's happening. It's just this weird space where I'm like, I don't want to cut into music or sorry, Christmas music territory. So
Yep.
it's like we have deadlines, and so we're just kind of working all that out. But in the interim, I am planning the album to drop regardless this fall. So stay tuned. Of course, you can find me everywhere on social media and kind of follow along for the journey. Um, and then I'm hoping this is kind of a knock on wood situation and praying that it all works out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm hoping to do a tour in the spring. It will honestly just it'll have to work out with my life, my schedule and everything. So if it does work out, you'll see me on tour and I hope to see you. But if not, I will probably do a tour within the next couple of years. So yeah.
That's fantastic. We'll let everybody know about that. I would love to chat with you again in the fall if that's all right, and
Yes.
just really get into this whole album. But thank you, Elenee, for sharing your heart, your songs. I've
Oh,
really appreciated getting to know you more.
thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for everything happening on your guys' side as well. So thanks for having
Mhm.
me.
My pleasure.